Welcome to Cat and Jess Talk the Best, where we're going to be talking about IMDb's top 250 movies from April 12th, 2018. My name is Kat.
And I'm Jess.
Today we are talking about number 179, Gone Girl, which is a drama mystery thriller from 2014. This is an 8.1 on 791,737 votes. So we are revealing the mystery line from Into the Wild, which was, but the strawberries. That's where I had them. Nobody was able to guess this one correctly. It was from The Cane Mutiny. So we have two colors left. We have light blue and dark blue.
Let's go with light blue.
Alright. What we've got here is a failure to communicate. So that is our mystery line, which will be revealed in Mary and Max. So make sure you take your guess on that. The spoiler-free synopsis for Gone Girl: in Carthage, Missouri, former New York-based writer Nick Dunne and his glamorous wife, Amy, present a portrait of a blissful marriage to the public. However, when Amy goes missing on the couple's 5th wedding anniversary, Nick becomes the prime suspect in her disappearance. The resulting police pressure and media frenzy cause the Dunnes' image of a happy union to crumble, leading to tantalizing questions about who Nick and Amy truly are.
So this is directed by David Fincher. He's got a couple other films on our list. He has at number 22, Seven, and number 10, Fight Club, and he's also directed The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Okay.
And this stars Ben Affleck, Rosamund Pike, and Carrie Coon. And of course we got like other actors in here like Neil Patrick Harris and Tyler Perry.
Yeah. So the ratings for this on IMDb, 34.2% of users rated this at an 8. Metacritic has a 79. Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 87% on 350 critical reviews. 2 of the fresh. Olivia Lutter, Gone Girl is the movie Flynn fans hoped for and sets Pike up for a worthy Oscar nomination, but Fincher disappoints in failing to improve upon the already brilliant book. So, Richard Roper, this is a nutty film, and for the most part, I mean that in a good way. So, 2 Rotten, David Thompson, Gone Girl promises to be an unnerving portrait of marriage as ruin, but then it opts for madness and implausibility. Okay. And Wesley Morris. Gone Girl is a sick movie, but it's a lumbering, anti-imaginative kind of sick.
Okay.
The consensus: dark, intelligent, and stylish to a fault. Gone Girl plays to director David Fincher's sick strengths while bringing the best out of stars Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike. Okay. So the budget, $61 million. Opening weekend, it made $37,513,109. Domestically, it made $167,767,189. Internationally, it made $201,563,174. For a worldwide total $369,330,363. its top lifetime gross was number 646. And so the awards. This was nominated for 1 Oscar. It had 64 other wins and 181 other nominations. But we are going to talk about the Academy Awards, so the Oscars, the Golden Globes, and the BAFTA Awards. So the nomination it got was Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role, Rosamund Pike. Let's see what beat it. Julianne Moore from Still Alice won Best Performance by an Actress in a Leading Role that year.
I don't know if I saw that movie, but okay.
I don't think I've seen it either. So then the Golden Globes, all it got there was nominations as well. It got nominated for Best Director for a Motion Picture, David Fincher. Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture, Drama, Rosamund Pike. Best Screenplay Motion Picture. And Best Original Score Motion Picture. So let's see what won there. So for that, Best Director... Actually, I'll just find it when I find it. So Julianne Moore won Best Performance by an Actress on that one as well. Best Director was Richard Linklater from Boyhood. Beat out David Fincher for that one. And then Best Screenplay beat Birdman. Beat out Gone Girl for that one.
I'm sorry, Birdman's a weird movie.
And then The Theory of Everything got the Best Original Score. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the BAFTA Awards. Best Leading Actress, Rosamund Pike. And then Best Adapted Screenplay. Those were both the nominations it got there. So no, we didn't actually talk about any of the awards it won, but just going off of the big three, you can probably tell what it won in other categories.
Yeah.
So initial thoughts.
I'll go. So I read the book. I'd actually been wanting to read the book for quite a while, and when I saw it was on our list, I was like, oh, perfect excuse. So I read the book first. I was like, all right. Love the book. Good at high expectations. Went to the movie. I liked the movie for the most part. It really did. I will say it stuck really close to the book.
Yeah.
Besides a few things. But other than that, it was pretty good. And when I was reading the book, I was trying to imagine, like, what these characters would look like or how they would act. And they did a pretty spot-on job with this in the movie. I will say that. They picked some really good actors for it. Yeah. So overall, I liked it a lot.
So, going into it, when I found out this was on the list, I thought that I was going to be mad because I thought it was a different book that I didn't like, and that's why I had never watched the movie. I was like, why would I want to watch the movie if I hated the book? But it was a different book. So I got the book and I read it, and it was really good. And then I was told that they added stuff to the end that a lot of people were mad about. And I actually thought the movie was really good. Didn't really care about the ending stuff. Like, it was there. And no, it wasn't necessary, but I didn't think it was terrible what they added to the end. So it didn't really affect me at all. Didn't really change my opinion. It just kind of added a little bit more to it. But overall, I did like both the book and the movie. I just liked the book more.
Same.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Alright, that was your warning. If you haven't watched the film yet, then stop listening and come back after you've watched it. So we start off, we hear Ben Affleck, who plays Nick. is talking kind of about his wife. And it's kind of like gruesome, really, how he's talking.
Yeah, it's not very nice.
He's talking about how he wants to, like, crack her head open and figure out what's going on in there. I'm like, that's not exactly the best way to say that. But, okay. But he's kind of going about his day, or actually really the whole city is, because you see, like, the neighborhood and the city, you just kind of get a bunch of different shots. And then you see him standing outside by the trash cans and stuff. And then he goes back in the house. And then we see him heading to work. At least we're going to guess it's work. Especially if you've read the book, you know it is work.
Yeah, it does say, I did like how they do this in the movie, how it says, like, the dates and, like, the morning of or 2 days after or...
Yeah.
This one, it does say.
It's super important because that's how it is in the book, too. Like, each chapter is... That's how it worked.
Yeah, so. This one is July 5th, the morning of.
Yeah. And so he goes to the bar, which is where him and his sister work because they own it. And he's not really, he said he's got like this little game for his sister, and they kind of have like a little brother-sister spat, which is she liked it, or he thinks she liked it when they were younger, but she didn't, and he's actually the one that liked it. And she just puts it on the shelf. So. But he asks for some whiskey, I believe. Or bourbon, one of the two. And so she pours a couple drinks, and he's not talking, so she's like, okay, well, I'm just going to tell you some stories. But then he says that it's his and Amy's 5-year anniversary. And she doesn't seem very thrilled about that, which he doesn't seem very thrilled about that either, so. And then we get the diary writing and the flashback, which I thought they did this really well. I thought it was really cool how they were able to do this. Kind of showing it a little bit without... Because there's... What was that? Oh, Into the Wild, how they put the diary entry, like, over what was happening. Or, like, the letter entry over what was happening. I didn't like that. I liked this more where you, like, see her writing it out, and then it goes into what she's talking about.
Yeah, I like that better.
This is where she meets Nick for the first time.
They meet at a party.
Yep. And they leave together. And they're flirting a lot and having fun and stuff. And then they go home or go to one of their homes because they don't live together. And they have sex. And as they're doing that, she's like, hey, Nick, I really like you. And I was just thinking, that's probably a good thing. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be in this situation.
Or you're just easy. I don't know.
Yeah. That's a possibility, too. Or he's just easy.
They're both easy.
That's true.
We'll be equal here. And then it goes back to Nick at the bar with his sister Margot. And they're talking about how Amy always does a treasure hunt for their anniversary.
Yep.
And they get a call from... Nick gets a call from his neighbor at the bar saying that his door's open.
Yeah.
You know, the cat's out.
Yeah. And my guess is the neighbor knows that the cat's not supposed to be out on his own.
Yeah. It's like an indoor kitty. And I was like, it's an orange kitty! I got excited. I did.
He's a cute... He's kind of hefty, too. He's built. Like, he's not fat, but he's, like, built for a cat.
I like the kitty.
He just looks like an orange version of my cat.
I have an orange cat, so I was very, like, yay.
I just like cats, so... But, so he goes. Nick goes and takes the cat inside. And he notices that the door was wide open. So he goes inside kind of carefully. And is, like, looking around, looking for Amy. And he doesn't find her. Instead, he finds that the ottoman is knocked over and that the coffee table is broken.
Yeah.
And so, next thing we see is the cops coming. And they ask to come inside. And they're, like, asking him questions and stuff. And we see the main cop, Rhonda something or another.
Boney.
Yeah. She has sticky notes and she puts them where she's, like, marking evidence. Because she has one glove on. And we notice some blood in the kitchen. And then we get another flashback. They go into Amy's office and there's posters of, like, this book series called Amazing Amy. Really reminds me of Junie B. Jones.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, too.
That's the only thing I can connect it to, because that's what I read when I was little.
Yep.
And then we get the flashback to, like, the Amazing Amy party, where her parents have just released the book where Amazing Amy gets married. So Amy has to go to this party, and her mom's kind of upset because she's not wearing a white dress to coincide with the fact that Amazing Amy's getting married. She's like, well, I'm not the one getting married.
And it's like, she's there with Nick, and she's telling Nick how her parents pretty much just used her life for the book. You know, if she did something wrong, Amazing Amy did it right.
Yeah, like she quit cello after 10 months or something like that. 10 weeks, one of the two. And then Amazing Amy went on to become a prodigy.
I'm like, that's kind of a dick move.
Yeah. But her mom asks her to please talk to some reporters tonight. So she's sitting down at a table with a bunch of reporters. And they're all asking her questions and stuff. And they're actually kind of rude questions. Because they're like, so Amazing Amy is getting married, but you're not married.
She's like, nope. She's like, I'm single.
Yeah. And then Nick comes up and he kind of interrupts. But he's like playing around because he's also a reporter. He's a reporter for a men's magazine, which we learned in the first flashback scene. And he's like talking to her and being all lovey-dovey and stuff, saying all the things he loves about her. And then he opens up his little notebook and there's a ring in there, and he, like, not regularly proposes. He just kind of opens it and lets her guess. So
it's like, think of what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah. Which, I mean, kind of makes sense because she's there with all these reporters that are giving her a hard time about being married. So, makes sense. Then we go back to now, and Nick is at the police station.
He has to get, like, a swab test.
Yep. And they did that, and then they're telling him, like, all how they're planning this out. Like, they're gonna talk to all her friends, talk to her family, talk to neighbors and stuff, see if anybody saw anything, and then they're gonna start searching the area and all that. But the cop, I don't remember what the cop's name is. I didn't write down the cop's names.
Which cop? The guy or the girl?
No, I know who Rhonda is. So the guy is Officer James Gilpin. Yeah. And he seems kind of standoffish. He thinks he's like already suspecting that Nick did it, whereas Rhonda is at least trying to give him the benefit of the doubt.
It's so funny. When I first watched this movie, I was like, I recognize that actor, Officer Gilpin, and then I realized where I recognized him from. He's in Wrist Cutters.
Oh, that's funny.
He's the main character in Wrist Cutters.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Gotcha.
I connected it there. I was proud of myself.
Now that you say that, I can see it, but I didn't really recognize him in the movie.
Yeah, it took me a minute. It did.
But I've only seen Wrist Cutters once, so whereas you've seen it a lot more than me.
I have.
But so
they're asking a bunch of questions like, what's Amy's blood type? You know, does she have friends? And he's like, I don't know. They're like, well, how come you don't know all this stuff? He's like, I just don't.
Okay. Blood type wise, I don't even know what mine is, let alone Sean's.
Logan told me one time. I just can't remember. It's a weird one.
Yeah, so that question, I was like, is it wrong to not know that? But, like, the friends thing, I do know that. What does he do all day? I do know that. So, I would be able to answer most of those questions.
Most of it, you're like, hell, I don't know. Was blood type really?
Yeah. But then they also figure out that he never called her parents, and they're, like, mad about that. And he's like, well, I've been here with you all day long, and I don't get cell service in this building. So how am I supposed to call them? Which I was like, that's a valid point.
That's a very valid point.
So they let him go call them, and he's getting ready to call him and stuff, and then this door opens next to the phone where he's calling from, and out in, like, the lobby is his dad, who is a very grumpy man.
Very, very grumpy.
He's calling the officer names and stuff.
Not very nice names either.
No. And so he's like, they're mad at him because they've been trying to call him all day. He's like, I've been right over here 20 feet from you all day long.
It's like you didn't even think to look.
Yeah. But so, Officer, or Detective Booney, sorry. Yeah. She lets him take his dad home, and so he drops him off at the, what is that place called? Sunshine something or another.
Yeah, it's like a nursing home.
Yeah. So he drops him off there, but as he's, like, driving, he pulls his cell phone from the glove box, and kind of get a little bit suspicious there, because you're like, I thought he had his cell phone on him all day, and then you realize that's kind of a crappy phone, so it's probably a burner, so he's into something shady.
It's like he's got a burner cell phone, which means, there's some issues there.
Yep. And then we get a flashback to one of the past scavenger hunts, and they are in a bookstore. And then they go at it in a bookstore. And I'm just like, I've been to plenty of bookstores, and it has to be, like, right close to closing time for it to be that slow.
Seriously. And to be like, have a find a corner just like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool and everything, but that's not very, realistic. That's
yeah. And then, it's the dinner later that night for that anniversary, and find out this is the second anniversary. The only reason I know that is because I just had my second anniversary, and it is cotton. And they both got each other the same gift. I have to wait every year for my mom to tell me what the anniversary is. The first year, she's like, oh, it's paper. I'm like, cool, got it.
You're
it's
like,
a
cool.
year, oh, it's cotton. Cool, got it. But I know the fifth one now.
You do know the fifth one.
Because of this movie/book. That's the only reason I know.
Are you going to remember it in like 3 years?
Probably not. Seeing as how I probably won't even remember it in 2 weeks. So, they each got each other the same sheets for their anniversary, which I thought was kind of funny. And then we see Nick is at his sister's house, and that's, like, now time. And they're talking about Amy. Talking about how Nick was not happy, and he was, like, getting ready to end it soon. And then the cops are investigating at the house, at Nick's house, Nick and Amy's house, and supposedly her best friend shows up, whereas Nick said she didn't have any friends, but her name is Noelle Hawthorne. And she shows up, and she's, like, trying to say that she was Amy's best friend. And so the cops are like, okay, well, we'll talk to you later, because we gotta go do this right now. Just kind of blow her off.
Yeah, and this cops, while digging, they find the little blood splatter, like, in the kitchen and everything, and they find out that Amy had everything. She owned everything.
Yep. She owned the bar, she owned the car, she owned the house. Like, all of it was in her name. And then as they're looking around upstairs, they find clue 1 in an envelope. And they kind of play it off as, like, are you serious type thing. And it's actually the clue to the scavenger hunt that Amy does every year for their anniversary. And then it's like the next morning, and Margot is trying to give Nick a little bit of advice for the press conference that they're about to have, since it's the morning after Amy has disappeared, so they're gonna have the press conference. And she's like, just don't be you, basically.
And like, it's his sister, so she knows him well enough.
Yeah. None of them as long as they've both been alive.
Because they're twins.
Yeah. So they go to the police station where the press conference is being held, and his in-laws are there, so he goes and kind of talks to them for a minute. And then we get the press conference.
And these huge posters.
Yeah. And he's just kind of talking about how everybody should help get Amy back. And then he's talking with Detective Rhonda and his in-laws about, like, old boyfriends and stuff. People that could possibly have taken Amy. Or done anything to Amy. And then he comes up with some names. A couple of people that he thinks could possibly be the ones to have taken her. And then they leave, and as they're kind of heading out, Rhonda pulls Nick aside, and she's like, what do you know about this? And he's like, oh, that's just part of this thing that we do every year. She makes a scavenger hunt for me. And he reads it, and you see he gets super excited that he actually knows this one. Because we got the hint earlier that he's not very good at these.
No, she made this, like, super easy for him.
Yeah. And so they go to the first place, or, like, the place that the first clue is talking about, which is his office at the university where he teaches. And they find the second clue, but Detective Rhonda also finds women's underwear. And he's like, those aren't mine. I'm just like, good job. Very suspicious. And he reads the second clue, and he's like, I have no idea what this means. Except for he's lying, because next thing he does is goes to his dad's house and finds clue 3.
Yeah, and he gets to the house and everything, there's an alarm.
Yep.
And the alarm goes off.
Yeah, because he can't remember the code. Supposedly.
Supposedly.
But the cops show up, and the Detective Rhonda, she thought that he went there because of the clue. But he's like, no, I came here because I check on the house once a week because it's my dad's house, so I want to make sure it didn't burn down. But he hid the clue that he found in his pocket. And then we get a flashback to Amy and Nick in New York, and she's talking about how her parents are basically bankrupt now because they lost their agent or something. And they need to borrow money, and she's like, well, it's technically their money, so I'm going to let them have it. And it's like almost $1 million that she's about to let them have from her trust fund. And then we see them kind of struggling, and he keeps buying things, like he bought a video game, he bought a computer, and she's kind of mad about it, and then they start arguing. So then back in, like, today, it's like the next morning or something, and he goes to the headquarters, and there's tons of people there, like a lot of people that he doesn't even recognize. There's a big group of women just kind of staring at him, and they're the ones who are always at missing wife search parties because they want to suck up to the husband. And Nick sees someone who's wearing sunglasses inside, so he's kind of suspicious. And Rhonda's like, yeah, we screen everybody. Like, we check all of the volunteers because we get some weirdos. But Nick's super concerned about the guy, but he walks out. He leaves the guy that he was eyeing. So Nick goes and helps some guy get bagels. I really don't know why. He just goes up there and helps the guy get bagels because he's, I guess, trying to look like a good guy. And he goes out in the hall, and this woman follows him. And she takes, like, a flirty picture, and he's, like, trying to get her to delete it because he knows what it means. She took it on purpose, but she's like, don't touch me, and then walks off and doesn't delete the photo.
He goes back in, and his mother-in-law's, like, irritated with him.
Yeah. And we kind of see some different areas where they're searching throughout this. This one, they're searching, like, this little scene right here, they're searching by the lake. And then we get to see, we don't know exactly what it is yet, but Detective Rhonda is asking about a couple of items, like some golf clubs and other things. She's asking if the officers found any of that in the house, and they're like, no, they didn't.
Because it's on credit cards under Nick's name.
Yep. And then we see Noelle Hawthorne is trying to get in the house again so she can talk to the cops, and they still don't want to talk to her, really. So the searching keeps continuing. Margot is kind of questioning Nick, asking him if he's told her everything. And he's saying yeah, but that's a lie. Then we get a flashback to when they're about to move to Missouri.
Because Nick's mom has stage 4 breast cancer.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact disease.
Yeah. So he wants to move back to Missouri to take care of her. So they do. Because she's like, well, if I say no, then I look like a bad wife. I'm like, you're not wrong.
No.
And
it's like, oh no, I'm not going to let you go take care of your dying mother.
Yeah. So then we see this woman shows up at, like, the back door of Margot's house. And she's, like, super concerned about Nick, like, hanging all on him, being all kissy and lovey and stuff. We find out that that's his mistress that he's been with for about a year and a half.
That's the burner phone.
Yep. Because she's been trying to call him, and he hasn't been answering, and he's like, I've been being watched, so... And then we get the flashback to when his mom dies. And they have bought the bar with the remainder of the money that Amy had in her trust fund. And then also Amy's kind of trying to convince him to have a baby. He's not really wanting to hear it right now. Because he thinks that she's just trying to fix their relationship with the baby, and that ends up them fighting.
He pushes her, too, at the bottom of the stairs.
Yeah.
Into, like, the stairwell, in a sense.
Yeah, into one of the banisters. And then we kind of get her being afraid of him. And that's also, like, she's voiceovering this part, because this part's a diary part, and she's, like, saying stuff. Like, she's afraid of him and all that. And then we see the cops investigating the mall. They find some people in the mall, and they talk to them. Because it's a abandoned mall. It's closed down. And they talk to one of the guys, and he's like, oh yeah, I remember her. Because it was Valentine's Day, and she wanted to buy a gun.
And she's dressed, like, in pink.
Yeah. Then Nick and his mistress are trying to be very, very quiet and not wake Margot up as the mistress is trying to sneak out. But
well, they had sex before.
Yeah.
So, on the couch.
Yeah. But it doesn't work. Cause...
Yeah. She catches it.
Yeah.
She's super pissed.
Yep. She's like, you've been lying to me. And then the news, Ellen Abbott is talking to this lawyer named Tanner Bolt. And she calls him like a scumbag lawyer because he's like really good at getting husbands who have killed their wives. He's really good at getting them out of jail, like keeping them from going to jail. And Margot says that he needs to hire Tanner.
And Tanner is played by Tyler Perry.
Yep. And he does a good job.
Oh, yeah. I was thoroughly surprised, actually.
I haven't ever watched any Tyler Perry movies because I'm not big on the Medea movies. So.
Well, it's a lot of comedy, so.
Yeah. But Margot basically kicks him out. The cops keep getting more information from the evidence that they've recovered. Like, they find out that somebody tried to clean up this big, huge blood puddle off of the kitchen floor, but it didn't clean up very well. Then we see this, like, candlelight vigil. Mistress is there. And it kind of shocks Nick a little bit. And then Noelle Hawthorne comes up screaming, like, what did you do to your wife? Where's Amy? She was 6 weeks pregnant, this, that, and the other. And that kind of spooks not only Nick, but it also spooks the cops, because they're like, crap, how did we miss that? Because they didn't talk to Noelle. So they meet Nick back at his house, and they're telling how the crime scene looked super staged and stuff, and he's like, what, you think I did this? And they show him the credit card records and stuff like that, and the life insurance policy, and they got the test results back of of Amy being pregnant, so Nick's like, okay, I'm done talking to you, I want a lawyer. And then it's like later on that day or the next day or something, Margot shows up at the house because she found out about the pregnancy, too, from the news. Nick is on the phone with his in-laws, and they're pretty pissed because they didn't know she was pregnant. And he's like, I didn't know she was pregnant either. She didn't even want kids. And Margot's mad because he keeps lying to her. And then he, like, tells her about how when they moved to Missouri, he went to a fertility clinic, but she never did anything. And then it's funny because he's got like this box of things. She calls it a little box of hate.
I did like that phrase.
It's funny. Because it's like all the evidence against her about her being a bad wife, even though he's also been a bad husband.
They're just terrible people.
Yeah. And then it's kind of like this simultaneous thing next is the cops working on investigating Nick's dad's house while Nick is trying to figure out clue number 3. And the cops find Amy's diary down in the furnace in Nick's dad's house while Nick figures out the clue that it leads to the woodshed out behind Margot's house, which is full of all the stuff that was ordered from the credit cards. So.
And then I was like, when I was reading the book, I was like, I don't believe she's dead. And she wasn't.
Oh, I never believed she was dead.
I didn't really believe it. I was like, nah, I don't think so.
I just thought she was missing, like he had went and stashed her somewhere to kill her later. That's what I thought. Like he hadn't done it yet.
There's that. It's like, surprise, July 5th, she's driving away.
Yeah. And she's like she's telling about how she did her plan and everything.
For a whole year.
Yeah. Like she lays out the entire plan. Like how she kept buying things in Nick's name on credit cards, how she managed to fake a pregnancy by getting Noelle's pee and using it during a pregnancy test at the doctor, making up 300 diary entries for the span of the time that they've been together and all this. And I was just like, wow.
She made, like, the fake crime scene. She actually literally drained herself with, like, blood.
Yep. And she made it just sloppy enough to where it looked staged. And then we jump back to Nick, and he shows Margot the woodshed, and she notices the present that's sitting in front. And they go get it, and then they open it, and it's these little doll things. And they're like, these are these specific dolls that the lady doll was pregnant, but the male doll killed the lady doll, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then we see Amy kind of meeting her neighbors and going about her business at the little cabin she's staying at. And she goes into town to, like, I'm guessing the library or, like, a coffee shop or something that has computers that you can use. And she's seeing how far the investigation has progressed to see what she needs to provide the cops to get Nick arrested. And then she's talking to Greta, which is one of her neighbors at the cabin, telling about how she found out about Nick's mistress. And
it's
then,
like, this part is actually true, what she's saying.
Yeah.
How she went to go meet Nick at the bar, and she sees that he's walking out with Andy, and like, they kiss and everything, and then Andy takes him back to her apartment and all that.
Yeah. And then Nick meets with Tanner, and he's basically explaining his theory about how Amy is framing him. And then Tanner is telling him what they need to do to fix it. Like, and he's saying that nobody's ever going to believe that she framed him. Like,
because no one likes you.
Yeah.
So we gotta just, like, revamp your image.
And they're talking about how Tanner's like, you need to go find other people who she did this to. So Nick goes and talks to the boyfriend that Amy had before Nick. And
As Tommy.
Yeah. And Amy basically didn't want Nick around, or didn't want Tommy around anymore, so she accused him of rape and, like, set it up to where it actually looked like he raped her. But he pled it down to sexual assault.
And he tells how Amy was pretty much like, how, like, him and Amy were first dating. Now she was just, like, changing him. And he's like, no, not doing that anymore. So he, like, backed away from her and everything, you know, distanced himself and everything. And then one night she comes back, you know, watching a movie with them and everything. They have consensual sex, of course. And then, like, a while later, after she leaves, the cops come.
Yeah.
And saying she's got marks on her wrists and that she was tied to the bed and everything.
Yeah. And then we jump to Amy and Greta are watching Ellen Abbott on TV, and they're talking about the case and everything. And Amy's just kind of trying to play it off like it's not her, even though it is.
Trying.
And then
Greta's like, she seemed just like a stuck-up bitch.
Yeah. Which is making Amy mad.
And Amy spits in her drink.
Yeah.
I like that. I did.
Then we see Nick telling Margot that he got Tanner, but they need to come up with the money because it's $100,000 retainer. And Margot's like, we can come up with it, we'll figure it out. and, like, has a bunch of different ways. And then Ellen Abbott is, like, making it seem like Margot and Nick are more
than siblings.
Into each other's company than they actually are. Like, they're just brother and sister. They're not anything else.
She's insinuating that there's incest involved.
Yeah. Without actually saying it. And
like,
then
that's
Amy,
nasty.
Yeah. I was like, this is not Game of Thrones. Twincest is not happening in this movie. But then Amy calls and reports suspicious activity outside the woodshed behind Margot's house. And then on Nick's way back from getting Tanner, he stops and visits Desi, who was Amy's high school boyfriend, who almost killed himself because of her.
And this is Neil Patrick Harris's character.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the cops are going through the diary and everything and trying to figure out how this is connected to now and everything. And
so then it goes to July 10th, 5 days gone, and Tanner shows up.
Yep.
He's, like, asking questions and everything. And he's like, well, you found, like, all these, like, at the different places, like, some piece of, like, evidence or something. What would be at your dad's house?
So they go to the dad's house, but they can't get in because it's now a crime scene.
He's like, well, they found it.
Yeah, whatever it was, they found it. And then Tanner is telling Nick that they're going to go after Margot because usually siblings are accomplices and things like this. And he's like, why would they do that? Like, she doesn't have anything to do with this. And stuff like that. And he's upset. And then Tanner is asking where Amy would go having pulled something like this off. And Nick's like, I don't know. And then we see Amy is playing mini golf with a couple of her neighbors from the cabin. And she gets super excited and drops her bag of money. Two neighbors see it, and they're kind of like messing with her, but you see their faces, they're pretty serious. They're like, ooh, money. And so that night, Amy is super paranoid, so she starts doing all the cleaning and stuff. Like, counting down her money and seeing how much she has. Tanner already knows about Andy, so he wants to set up a interview with Sharon Sheber, which is like another Ellen Abbott type person who gets invested in these big, huge cases and stuff and likes to interview the people involved. So that's getting all set up while Amy is working on cleaning her cabin to leave. The neighbors come over and are like knocking on the door saying they want to say goodbye, but they barge in and are kind of searching for the money. Then they're threatening her, shove her up against the wall, and take her money.
Yeah, just leave her with nothing.
Yeah.
No money at all.
Some change. She got some change.
That's about it.
But so she leaves. She's parked outside of a hotel, and a security officer comes out and sees her there, tells her she has to go. Then we see her on the phone with someone. That's how we find out she has some change. Because we see the change she has lined up on the on top of the phone booth, or the payphone. She's not a phone booth, she's just at a payphone.
Then it jumps to the July 12th.
Yep.
And it's Tanner is he's coaching Nick on what to say and like how to say it.
Yep.
When he's on the show, and he keeps throwing gummy bears at him.
Yeah.
He's like, it's like, you're too like stoic.
Yeah, he's like, you need to fix this, please. And So they're practicing and everything, and then Margot sees that he's putting on this watch that he doesn't like to wear, but Amy got him that watch, so he's going to wear it. And then also this tie that he's going to wear.
He's like, because Amy got it for him.
Yeah.
And,
So
he's playing up, the whole husband thing, the dumb cheating husband shit.
Yeah. And so, but before he gets to do any of that, we jump back over to Amy. And,
she's at the casino.
Yep, she's cleaning out her car. And she goes inside and she meets Desi at the casino. And she's like telling Desi all these lies about Nick and stuff. And Desi's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna let you stay at my lake house. So, they're gonna head out to the lake house.
And as they're leaving, she sees on the TV that Andy is now giving, a little press conference of her own.
Yeah.
Pretty much saying, yeah, Nick and I fooled around. Yeah. And she was just like, Amy is just mad dogging, pretty much.
Yeah, she's pissed off. And then we jump back to Nick, and Sharon shows up. She's just found out about Andy, so she's not very happy. But Nick's like, that's what we're going to talk about. But then also in that press conference with Andy, Amy's parents have officially withdrawn their support from Nick. Like, they didn't think Nick did it, and now they do. So
it's like just because her son-in-law is a cheater.
Yeah. But Nick sits down for the interview, which we don't get to see yet. We see Desi taking Amy to the lake house, showing that there's cameras all over, so if anybody gets into the lake house or leaves the lake house, he's going to know about it. And then, so we kind of see Amy trying to adjust to being at the lake house.
Yeah, and Desi's weird.
Yeah. He buys her some clothes and hair dye and makeup and stuff, and he's like, once you look like yourself, you'll feel better. I'm like, I don't think that's how that works.
But okay.
And he's also telling her that he's going to be there with her when the Sharon show comes on. And they're going to watch it together, and Amy's like, well, I wanted to watch by myself.
It's like, well, too bad.
Yeah. So then we see the interview. And you can see that Amy is, like, completely sold on everything that Nick is saying.
And Desi's just, like, sitting there just, like, watching. It's like, I can't believe she's believing all this.
Yeah. And then there's one point when Nick has to, like, look into the camera and talk directly to Amy. And Amy buys it. Hook, line, and sinker. Just all of it. So you can see her already starting to think up a plan to get back. Then Margot and Nick look at the internet right after the interview and see that the internet's going crazy, how they all believe that Nick didn't do it, this, that, and the other. And then the cops show up with a warrant to go into the woodshed.
And they find all the stuff that's in there.
Yep, so they take Margot and Nick into custody. Margot really just for questioning, but Nick, basically, he's about to be arrested.
Yeah.
And then
it goes over to Desi's talking with Amy.
Yep.
He's like, you need to move on.
Yeah, he's like trying to get her out of the mindset that Nick is a good guy. So then
and it goes to Nick is being questioned by Rhonda. And she's showing him the diary.
Yeah. She's like, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? And some of it is true and some of it's not. They come in with the, like, handle for the Judy doll, saying that this is the weapon that was used, and they found it the first night, but they didn't know what it meant until they actually found the dolls. Or, like, what it was.
And so, like, okay, now we can arrest him.
Yep, so they arrest him.
And then it jumps over to Amy and Desi, and she's in, like, this, what would you call it? Like a silky nightgown or something like that?
I don't know. I didn't really care about her clothes.
Well, it's kind of setting things up.
Yeah.
That's why I cared a little bit.
I really just don't look at people's clothes. Ever. I don't look at them in TV shows. I don't look at them in movies. I don't look at them in real life. I just ignore clothes.
She's like, as long as they're clothes, I guess it doesn't matter.
I don't really care what you're wearing. You could be wearing underwear for all I care. As long as you got the main things covered up, you're good.
Well, she's trying to act like she's trying to forget about Nick.
Yeah.
And so she kisses Desi as he's leaving, and she, like, bites his lip.
Yeah. She bites it pretty hard, though.
Yeah, because he bleeds.
Yeah. But then as he's leaving, he kind of, like, smiles at her like, oh, it's okay.
It's all good. And then, so, as he leaves and everything, there's, like, in this glass, is it, like, grape juice or something like that? I couldn't tell.
Think it's either grape juice or red wine.
Something like that. It's, like, a darker color. And so she dips, like, the nightgown in it. And she ties a string around her ankle. And then she goes to, like, the edge of, like, the glass doors. And looks like she's, like, she's screaming, faking screaming.
Yeah.
That she's captive there or something.
Yeah, she's trying to get this all set up with a short amount of time that she has to get it set up.
And it jumps over to Nick got released on bond.
Yep.
Then it goes to 29 days gone.
Yep.
And she had been making marks on her wrist with, like, a string.
Yeah.
So it looks like she's been constantly tied up.
Yep.
And this part, I was like, okay. She inserts a bottle into herself. So it looks like it's bruised and look like,
She's setting him up to frame him for kidnapping and raping her.
Yeah, pretty much. And so Amy, when Desi comes back, she seduces him pretty much.
Yeah. And while they're going at it, she slits his throat with the box cutter.
Yeah. Like, and he's on top of her, so all that blood's spraying down on her.
Yep. And then she runs away. She, like, gets in his car and drives back home. And she shows up at home, and Nick is, like, so confused. Like, why in the world is she back?
And why is she covered in blood?
Yeah. But the press is having a field day with this.
And, like, she comes up to Nick all dramatic and everything, and she just passes out in his arms. Like,
yeah.
Bravo. Bravo.
So then they're at the hospital, and they're examining her. They're doing, like, the rape kit and everything. And Detective Rhonda is talking to Nick like she actually believes him about her framing Nick. And then the FBI and cops are all in the room kind of questioning Amy. And Rhonda keeps asking questions to clarify, like, wanting to know more. But Amy keeps coming up with clever answers that kind of answer the question without giving away too much detail. And then she also tells about the cameras that were at Desi's place. And that they need to just go check the cameras. And then they're asking about the allegations from the diary about Nick being physically and mentally abusive, and she's like, he's not perfect, but I think we can get past that. And so they get to go home.
Yeah. And, like, as soon as they get home, Nick's like, you need to tell me everything.
Yeah.
And she's like, I need to take all your clothes off.
Yep. You gotta make sure you're not wearing a wire. So they go up to the shower, and while she's showering, she's telling Nick everything that happened, because he's in there too, because that's a way to, if he does have some sort of wire, to kind of mask them talking. And then Nick's like, well, I'm not staying with you. I'm gonna get a divorce. And she's like, well, that's a bad idea, because I was just kidnapped and raped and came back, and you're gonna leave me.
It's like, that doesn't look bad at all.
Yep. And then he asks about the baby, and she's like, it can't be real. Nick
and they're
decides
sleeping in separate rooms and all of that. And
yeah. And then there's a press conference the next day, or I guess at some point, and it's basically them saying, or like Nick saying he's happy she's home and stuff like that. And then Nick is meeting with Margot and Tanner and Rhonda. And Tanner is saying that Nick doesn't need him anymore. He's out of legal danger, which is all Tanner can really help him with. But Rhonda's like, I can't investigate anymore. Like, this is it. I've done everything that I can. And then Amy and Nick are just kind of living day by day, trying to be normal, trying to get back to normal. Well, Amy is. Nick doesn't want anything to do with it. They invite Ellen Abbott to kind of come do an interview, and like an exclusive interview at their house. And Nick's not very happy about it, because he doesn't like Ellen Abbott, because he just kind of smeared his name all over with bad press. And Margot's name. She's like, I never actually said incest. Everybody just took the implication.
yeah, and before Ellen had come up, as Amy's getting dressed, she's like, I have a present for you. And it says, like, it's a box and everything. And inside of it is a positive pregnancy test.
Yeah.
He's like, I've not touched you.
She's like, you don't have to. So she got his semen from the fertility clinic when he did it a long time ago, and just saved it, and then decided to impregnate herself with it now so that he would stay with her. I'm like, wow. It's a lot of work. Because basically she's saying they belong together because of how messed up they are.
She's not wrong.
Yeah. But then they go...
yeah.
Go ahead.
He tells his sister, he tells Margot about it, and Margot's like, are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
She's pretty upset with it.
Yeah, she's like, you're seriously gonna stay with her? He's like, well, I have to protect my child. I was like, that's probably a good thing, because growing up with a psychotic person as your mother, being your only, like, influence, really, it's probably a good thing that dad stays around. And then we get the little interview from the beginning, or not from the beginning, but the interview with Ellen Abbott about, like, what they're gonna do, and, like, how they're gonna progress and stuff, and then that they're gonna be parents. And then we get, like, the same shot from the beginning, but of course it's, like, now, because her hair's shorter and everything. But it's basically the same exact thing from the beginning.
Yep.
And that's it.
That's it.
So, the music for this is by two people. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So, Trent Reznor is from Nine Inch Nails. He's like one of the main guys. And he has done music for The Social Network from 2010, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo from 2011, and Man on Fire from 2004. The first thing he ever did, like movie-wise, the first thing he did was he was the arranger for the movie Dear Light of Day in 1987. He's currently working on a movie called Mank and another one called Soul. And he did win one Oscar for The Social Network for Best Achievement in Music Written for Motion Picture Original Score. He shared that with Atticus Ross. So this is not the only movie that they've worked together on. They've worked together on quite a bit. So Atticus Ross is known for The Social Network, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo from 2011, The Book of Eli from 2010, and Love and Mercy from 2014. First thing he ever worked on was Touching Evil from 2004, which was a TV show. And he is also currently working on Mank and Soul, those two movies. They're both working on those together. So they both share that Oscar, and they like to work together. And I will say that the music in this is pretty good. I don't remember anything irritating me about the music. Because usually it's got to be, like, super good music or really, really annoying music for me to just be more specific about it. I mean, this, I don't remember much of it, so that means it fit pretty perfectly with what was going on.
Yeah. I think that's what good movie music is supposed to do.
Yeah. So, like we kind of talked about, this is based on a book by Gillian Flynn. So the few differences that I remember are, in the book, one of the things Amy does to help set this whole thing up is she like works on it for years, making it seem like she is afraid of blood, like terrified of blood. So the whole thing where she sets up the blood in the kitchen from taking her own blood, that seems almost impossible because everybody thinks she's afraid of blood. That's a major thing that I feel like could have been done pretty easily with like one scene.
Yeah.
So. And then we do get to see a lot in the book with Nick's mom.
Yes. And she's not in this at all.
Yeah, we don't ever really get to see Nick's mom in this. We hear about her, but that's it. And then the other major difference besides the end that I can remember is there were 3 people that Amy framed before Nick. There was Desi, and then Tommy, and then her high school friend, or like her friend growing up. Rachel, I think her name was in the book. She set her up to seem like a crazy stalker type person. So
yeah, Amy'd been doing this for years.
Yeah.
It's not her first rodeo.
But then the only other major thing is like the last 10-ish minutes of the movie where they go into like the Ellen Abbott type interview part.
Yeah, that never happened in the book.
Yeah, because the last little bit of information we get is her making herself pregnant and Nick deciding that he's got to stick it out.
And it does tell about in the book how Nick was writing a book. And he showed Amy, and then she showed him the pregnancy test. Yeah. And in the book, he made her do the pregnancy test right in front of him because he did not believe her.
Yeah.
And it does show at the very end of the book, it says that it was like 10 months later or something like that, that she's going to have the baby, like the next day.
Yeah.
And she had a book deal, and she was having her book published.
Yep. So,
mentions none of that in the movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's actually very well done, book to movie wise. It's one of the best that I've seen in a long time. Like, yes, they do leave a few things out, but I feel like some of it was time constraints, and then they do add that little bit at the end, which I didn't think was necessary, but it wasn't terrible. Like, it seemed like something that could have actually happened in the book.
Yeah, this was pretty good, close to it. I think the other one that's probably next closest to it is with the movie and book Stand By Me.
Yeah, that one, I think that's the only other one that's really been almost right on. So not too bad, because most of the time, books and movies are pretty different. Like, major, significant changes.
Oh, yeah.
So, trivia.
Do you have any?
I do not.
Okay, so I have a couple. Just a couple. So when Nick's coming back from New York and he puts on a hat, it's a Mets hat, right?
Yeah.
So the director originally wanted him to wear a Yankees hat. And Ben Affleck is a huge Boston Red Sox fan. So that was not going to happen. He's like, I will refuse. Like, he wouldn't even show up if you had to wear a New York Yankees hat. So they compromised with the Mets.
Well, I mean, the Mets are still New York.
Yeah, so it's a compromise. He's like, I will refuse to wear a Yankees hat.
Yeah.
Which I thought was pretty petty, but hilarious at the same time.
I understand, because I absolutely hate the Yankees as well, so.
It's baseball. I'm like, whatever.
I hated the Yankees growing up, so I don't even really care about baseball anymore, but I hate the Yankees.
I think the Yankees are just, like, everyone's team to hate.
They're like the Patriots.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like in football, which is the Patriots.
Yeah. Because
everyone doesn't like the Patriots, and we're all happy they're not in the playoffs anymore. Anyways. What was my other one? Oh. So the director shot over 500 hours of material over their 100-day shooting.
Dang.
Which is a lot, actually. That's quite a bit of film there.
Well, it's 5 hours a day.
It is.
So.
It's pretty impressive, though.
I mean, if I could work 100 days a year, 5 hours a day, and get paid what they get paid, for sure, I would do it. But I'm not good at acting, so that's why it's not my job.
I thought this was interesting. So, Ben Affleck and his character share the same birthday.
That's funny.
I think that's funny. And it's like nice coincidence there. So it's just like he's just made to play this role. Just made to. Trying to think if that's it. I know that with Neil Patrick Harris and Rosamund that they had to go over their scene quite a bit. I mean, it's kind of awkward to practice that scene, especially because, you know, two completely different lifestyles there.
Yeah.
So, I thought this is funny. So with that, she used a Dora Explorer doll to help her practice that.
Interesting.
So, yeah. That's
All
about
right.
it.
So, where it has been on the list before and where it is at now. So, 2010 and 2012, it was not on the list because it wasn't out yet. 2014, it came out pretty hot because, you know, being brand new, usually movies are a lot more popular brand new than they are like 5 years later. So, it was at number 114. Then 2016, it went down to 179. 2018, it went up to 178. And then as of today, when we are recording, it is sitting at 187. So it seems like it's going to sit right here around the 180s type area.
Yeah, I can see that.
So previously, the number 179 movie, 2010, The Wages of Fear from 1953.
Ugh.
2012, Dog Day Afternoon from 1975. 2014, Annie Hall from 1977. 2016, this movie, obviously, Gone Girl. 2018, How to Train Your Dragon from 2010. And then as of today, when we are recording, it's actually a pretty new movie. Came out at the end of 2019, Marriage Story. Is at number 187.
It's on my list to watch.
It is on my list as well, because I like quite a few of the actors that are in it, so.
Me too.
So, some of our podcast trivia. Let's see here. This is the this is the fourth movie we have had that came out in the year 2014. Wild Tales, The Grand Budapest Hotel, and PK all came out in 2014.
So some pretty decent movies.
Yeah, and as of right now, 2014 is the year that we have the most movies from.
Oh.
So that's pretty interesting. Then, votes-wise, this is pretty high up on the list. It is up there with Jurassic Park, right around the same amount of votes as Jurassic Park. So the only things above it that we've done are Iron Man, The Truman Show, and Pirates of the Caribbean have more votes.
Huh.
Then... the only other things that have gotten an 87%, our last movie, Blade Runner 2049, and Paranorman are the only other two that we've had so far that have gotten 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. And then 79% on Metacritic. We've had 4 other movies. Dead Poets Society, Gandhi, Iron Man, and Hotel Rwanda are all at 79% for Metacritic. So it's sitting in some good company with a lot of the numbers it has.
I would say so.
So, favorite line.
I got 4.
I was pretty distracted trying to make sure I could remember the differences. So, I gotta pull up some here real quick because I only wrote down one quote.
Or I'll say mine. We're so cute. I want to punch us in the face. It's a good one. Boo-hoo, I got laid off. I'll go fuck a teenager. You two are the most fucked up people, and I specialize in fucked up.
Yeah.
And I think this is my favorite one. Just don't piss her off.
Everyone knows that complicated is code word for bitch.
That's a good one, too.
Whatever they've found, I think it's safe to assume that it is very bad. And then, got 2 more. The one I wrote down and then another one that I like a lot. Whoever took her is bound to bring her back. And then the other one the one that I actually wrote down was, America loves pregnant women as if it's so hard to spread your legs. I mean, it's true.
There's just so many good quotes.
Yeah. This one's a hard one.
This is.
I think my favorite is whoever took her is bound to bring her back.
And I said mine.
Can you say it again?
Just don't piss her off.
Yeah. I think either one of those, so we gotta decide. Do we want to go with funny but true, or just straight true?
Let's just go with the funny true. I'm good with that.
That works. So whoever took her is bound to bring her back. So what is your rating?
I'm gonna give this an 8. I am. Okay. Again, it's based off a book, so that always puts in with my rating. And this was very close with the book. Yeah. Which I highly appreciate. Some really good acting in here for the most part. There really was. Like, I gotta say, Neil Patrick Harris can play a pretty good straight man. He can.
Plays an amazing straight man in How I Met Your Mother.
Exactly. So, and he just kind of just used that with this movie, which is great. Yeah. So, I gotta give him props for that. And, yeah, it just fits with my 8s. It does. That's where it sits. It fits with the 8s.
Yeah. I'm giving it an 8 as well, because it does fit with my 8s. And like you said, it gets some bonus points for being based on a book, but then it also gets extra bonus points for actually being very close to the book. Like, not very many changes. Because that's one thing I really hate, is reading a book and then watching the movie and it just being so completely different that I have to disregard the book when I watch the movie, or disregard the movie when I read the book.
Yeah.
Which I hate doing. I hate having to separate things. But I did enjoy this one. The acting is really good. And actually, most of the cinematography, I like the choices that were made. And then directorial-wise, I liked the choices that were made, especially with the diary part. Having it be a flashback and we see her, like, writing it, as well as kind of the scene. I liked that decision better than some other things like Into the Wild, where we see the written stuff on the screen.
Don't get me started on that movie.
I just wasn't a big fan of that decision.
I wasn't a big fan of the movie.
So, our next film is Andrei Rublev from 1966. Which is in black and white, as well as Russian.
So, yeah.
So, you can rent it from Amazon Prime for 99 cents.
Huh, didn't know that.
Yeah, it just popped up on IMDb. that's the only place I know is you can get it from Amazon Prime for 99 cents. Let's see where else you can get it real quick, so that way everybody knows. Oh, also, Andrei Rublev is a tennis player. Because when I was going to do my notes earlier, that's what popped up the first time. A tennis player. So,
wow.
If you were curious. Yeah, it looks like the only place it's available is Amazon Prime, but it's only 99 cents. So, I think 99 cents for a movie is not terrible.
Oh, no.
So, if you're looking for it, check out Amazon. And that will be out next week. Our next event coming up at the end of February will be our superhero event. And this will be Batman Mask of the Phantasm from 1993 and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse from 2018 are the movies I picked.
And I picked Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from 1995 and Avengers Endgame from 2019.
Yep. So make sure you check that out at the end of February. We will not have a normal episode that week. We will just have those 4 all come out on February 29th, which is a Saturday. So it'll be a normal day. You'll just get 4 episodes. We are offering Premium and Patreon. Premium, you just go to our website. Patreon, you go to the Patreon page, and the link is in the show notes. So for $1 a month, you will get unedited episodes, early release episodes, and a special bonus episode every month. For $5 a month, you will get all of that. Plus, you will be able to join us for a movie of your choice every 50 movies, as well as you'll be able to vote on patron-only episodes, like what you think should be the next month's episode once we get to the end of our little rope here that we've got a string of them already planned out. And then for $10 a month, you will get all of the previous 2 tiers, plus you will be able to join us for live stream Q&As once a month. You can ask us whatever you'd like. And then also, instead of it being 50 movies, you can join us every 25 movies for 1 movie. Or you can join us for an event, as long as it's not the Harry Potter event, because we already have that one all settled. And our January special episode for the month is going to be the top 75. So it'll be the first 75 movies that we have watched. And we will be putting them in the order that we think they belong in.
Yeah, which has turned out to be kind of a pain in the ass right now.
Yeah, right now we've had a few pretty good ones lately, and then we've also had some that go down in the bottom for us. So
yeah.
And all of that, Patreon and Premium, all of that will go towards our website. It just helps us pay for the website. But if you can't help us that way, you can always leave us a rating and review. Ratings help us get new listeners. Reviews help us know what we can do to improve. You can talk to us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, or you can email us. All of the links are in the show notes. And our music is by Audio Binger. You can find him on Facebook, YouTube, and his website, audiobinger.net. So thank you so much for listening. We will catch you next week with Andrei Rublev. Bye.
Bye.